I think we're live. It's just come up as live. I'm never quite sure with these things, how I am with tech. You've hopefully got to know that by now. I'm Tina Wright. I'm a psychological therapist, mindfulness teacher, and chronic pain and anxiety specialist. And welcome to Beyond the Label and our self-care summit. And tonight we have Jag with us. And I spoke to Jag just a few weeks ago on his podcast and said, come on over, come and chat to my audience because, he's an interesting guy with lots going on. Hi, Jag. Thanks for joining us.
No worries. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing fine, actually. I'm really okay. Are you okay?
I'm okay. I've got a cold, so I've got a bit of sniffles, but I'm doing good. Yeah. I think it's a change in the weather.
Yes, I think there is a lot about, and I think I'm doing well to avoid it just yet. But hopefully you'll be okay for the rest of the evening, and then.
Yeah, I'm literally going to go to bed after this.
Yeah, that's it. An early night. Look after yourself. It's the theme of the evening: self-care, making sure that our needs come first. So, do you want to introduce yourself a little bit? I didn't do that. I mean, actually, just before we start that, I jumped straight in. I haven't said, if anybody's watching, do let us know you're watching. Do pop a comment in the comments. Say hi. I'm monitoring the comments, so if you want to put any questions in, I'll pop them to Jag as we go through, or if it's not really convenient, we'll come back to them at the end. And do give us some thumbs up and some hearts on there as well, because we want to try and beat that Facebook algorithm, and it's not great for groups at the moment. So anything you can to help us get seen on Facebook so that more people can come and join us would be brilliant. So sorry, I'll let you now. Tell us a little bit about yourself, because you're a pain coach, physiotherapist, men's mental health specialist.
Yes, there's a lot going on there.
So tell us a bit more.
If I was going to break it up, 60% of what I do is physiotherapy, and I work predominantly with a lot of chronic pain patients. So I do coaching as well. So the 40% is men's empowerment coaching. So I help essentially men who are struggling with confidence, essentially build up that confidence, become more authentic in themselves. And essentially my goal is working with men is a lot of them want to find a partner. So a lot of what I do is helping them find the ideal partner, but through building confidence within themselves. So I've got the coaching side, and the physio side is what I do, 60%. So I do that privately in London, and I also do that through the NHS. So I work with a lot of chronic pain patients. So similar to what yourself, but I guess in the essence that I do try and educate them about kind of chronic pain and what it is, but also trying to help empower them to do more activities throughout the day. I think there's a lot of stigma that when you're in pain, you shouldn't do anything because, you'll be damaging your body. So it's essentially retraining that thought process, re-educating them around what pain actually is and helping them to move better and be more empowered through their life. And there's a lot of link between the men's coaching and the physiotherapy, because underneath it all, there's a lot of coaching. Rather than telling people what to do, I try and help them to navigate themselves and show them the direction, what they need to do. And it's almost like they have to find the right path for them, because everyone is different. Everyone is like an individual. So in that sense, it's empowering them to find their own truth and essentially find and design a life that they can live by and not other people's expectations. So those are the two areas. And then I guess underneath it, in training wise, I qualified. I did a master's in physiotherapy, so it's not the first degree I did. I did biomedical science. I didn't know what I wanted to do at that time. I thought maybe I'm going to become a scientist or become a doctor. I completely derailed. I went into physiotherapy because I found there's much more scope for helping people holistically, as opposed to following guidelines. And then in terms of coaching, I also fell into that just because I was working on myself at that time, and I was trying to figure out how I can build more confidence within myself, and just going on different courses. So I did NLP, trained to be a mindfulness teacher, ACT, so acceptance and commitment therapy, and all these different modalities, and kind of I guess learning from each one. Each one has something to offer, and from each one I kind of plucked different things out that worked for me, and then now I'm at a process where I can kind of help people, especially in the jobs I do.
Oh, sounds brilliant. So you say you educate people on pain. Can I pick up on that? Sorry, I
Yes,
know
yeah,
we're
yeah,
script a little bit, but I just wondering, the type of things that people need to know
yeah.
when they are in chronic pain,
Hmm.
because you say about that, the fear of movement. It's huge, isn't it? I know
Hmm.
when I had fibro, it was like I used to try not to type. I used to try not to write. I stopped cutting up vegetables because it hurt. It was a good I don't like the word excuse, but it was a good excuse to not do it because I was frightened in case it made it worse. So I didn't do it, even if I thought I might be able to cope with it or do
Yeah.
what I was going to do. I thought I was going to get in worse pain by doing it. So I avoided it. Does that make sense?
Yes, yeah, 100%, yeah. I think one of like people do generally just try and avoid pain completely, and understandably, it's something that is frustrating. It's not a pleasant sensation. And I guess having worked in sports physio as well for a bit, having seen those cohort, I worked with a few pain patients, but it's only now that I'm working kind of with more kind of chronic pain patients. I see a massive difference in the sense that in the acute injury, so essentially pain is a response, right? So it's a pain response to damage or potential damage. So in a
Mm-hmm.
kind of a sports injury, you have like the actual straight trauma, the damage, and then you're going through that kind of pain process. Um, in which case, the first few stages you want to move a little bit, but you want to be a bit careful. But when you're in chronic pain, you've had pain for such a long time. It's like you've had it for years. You've gone from doctors to physios to chiropractors and all these other kind of healthcare professionals who kind of give you different advice.
Mm.
And I find that the there's an old school thought where you shouldn't do as much. You should focus on kind of passive treatment, and there's a kind of new school to thought where actually we found that exercise and kind of movement, all these kind of things actually benefit you more than doing nothing about it. So where your kind of pain, where the actual damage is up here, there's like a buffer underneath where you're kind of in pain, and
Mm.
if you do nothing about it, that buffer is just going to increase. But if you can start to do more activity, it's almost like you're moving into the buffer. And yes, you'll feel pain. Yes, it will feel a bit more intense. But if you can kind of learn to accept that pain and manage around it, eventually that buffer is going to come down and down and down. And eventually you can do much more activity. And the threshold for damage is still up there. So you can push yourself and you still won't get damaged. So that's it sounds easier than it is, but that's the element of retraining where I teach them to essentially push through that pain and learn to accept it 100% and learn that actually you can do a little bit more activity. Yes, you might have flare-ups of pain. Yes, you might have some days where it feels more painful at the start, but on the whole, as long as you're progressing, as long as you're doing more activity, and as long as you're building more confidence within yourself, that's what we want. Because the last thing we want is patients who are in so much pain they do nothing at all, and you'll get to a stage where it will affect your mental health, it will affect your relationships, it will carry over to every aspect of your life, and essentially at that stage it's yes you can change, yes you can make a difference, but it's so much more harder. So I'd rather catch it at the earlier stages, but of course with chronic pain the initial stages are, you go for MRI, you go for the consultant scan, meeting, and then you go get like an X-ray or you go get like blood tested, all these kind of processes. So throughout that process, there's an ongoing process there. So essentially, when you get to that stage where you've kind of been diagnosed with chronic pain, fibromyalgia, you've gone through all the tests. So at that stage, people are more willing to accept change because they're kind of like actually. Everyone's told me that there's nothing structurally wrong with me. I've just got this pain. There's no explanation for it. Some people just give up and they're just kind of like, this is my life. Other people do seek a change. And for me, I enjoy trying to help people find that change and find and understand that there is a way forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's where we're on the same page, aren't we?
Yeah.
Excuse me. Because I know that you can change it. I've seen it for myself and I see it in my clients.
You've
And
experienced it.
yeah, and
Yeah.
that's the thing. I think my biggest message is always chronic pain is not for life. Because that's what you feel. You're given a diagnosis, told there's nothing they can do. You believe there's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
And actually, there's loads we can do. And it starts with this self-care, doesn't it? So, where would you say, self-care comes into you and, you're working with clients and,
Mhm.
do you see what you do as part self-care?
Oh, 100%. I think the more and more I'm like kind of diving into pain, I'm realizing like coaching and promoting self-care is such a key role because everyone comes in and you ask them, what they did this XYZ, but there's so much like criticism. They're like, I did you know, last week I couldn't walk 10 minutes, now I'm walking 15 minutes. But they will never acknowledge that 5 minute increase. They'll always acknowledge the fact, you know, I'm always in pain, I wake up in pain, and you have to kind of dig deep to figure out like where they're improving. So in
Mhm.
that sense, self-care for me is kind of showing yourself more compassion and spending time kind of for yourself. And I think that's a lot of what a lot of patients don't do.
Mhm.
Almost
Yeah,
like you're on the go, you're always like you're frustrated, you're fed up, you're kind of telling yourself, you know, why am I like this? Why is the world like moving on? And why am I like this? Am I unlucky? All these kind of thoughts are going through your head. So self-care essentially is for me, and from what I've seen, that like helping patients kind of promote themselves and look after their bodies, show more love to themselves. Because I think that is part of the healing process too. Because as you start to show more compassion to yourself, you start to change your thoughts. You practice kindfulness, which is essentially, you know, being kind to yourself. Um, and I think that is an element of change. But I think the difficult bit of that is it takes time. Like it's like a muscle itself. So I think people give up, and this is where working with a physiotherapist, you know, whoever you want to work with, as long as they're promoting that each week, you're at least you have someone to hold you accountable and someone who can show you the ropes.
yeah, that's it. And it is those small steps, isn't it? And you say like going from 10 minutes to 15 minutes walking, it's a 50% increase, but we don't recognize that. We see that we've not walked the mile that we used to be able to.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's so much comparison. The comparison game is ridiculous. Like, so
yeah,
some patients who, like a year ago, they wouldn't have been able to like walk 10 minutes, 5 minutes, you know, sitting down, they were lying in bed. And then now they're doing so much more, but they'll always compare themselves to 2 years ago. And it's almost like, you know, it's a different part of your journey. Like, look how far you've come. If anything, if you're able to kind of progress this further, you get to a stage where you'll be more kind of relentless. You know, you have so much more resilient strengths within you. But I guess it's hard to see when you're on that journey.
yeah, yeah. And that is, isn't it? We often go through life with blinkers on. We're a bit like a horse at the start of a race, aren't we? We sort of just see what's in front of us and what we want to get to.
Yeah.
We want to get to that finish line. And actually, if we open up the blinkers and see what's going on, we can see that actually, we've come a long way. And there's so much to enjoy along the way as well. And
Mm.
I often think that that's where the mindfulness comes in for me, teaching people how to enjoy the journey as much as anything. You say, you've trained in mindfulness, and I know you use quite a lot of, you've got your booklet and things as well, haven't you, that you promote.
I have, yes, yeah.
So, how has it been effective in your life, mindfulness as a whole, or parts of it even?
Yes, I would say like personally for me, it's like been a game changer. Um, I think when I started mindfulness, I always thought it was like meditation. So I was trying to meditate, you know, I'd watch like self-help videos online. I'm just trying to meditate. And it helped to a point, but I think when I started to introduce it into my day-to-day life, like walking down the road and where my thoughts are kind of rushing from one thing to another, I kind of just take a moment and be like, okay, let me just center myself, let me breathe in, focus on like part of my body, just being mindful of that body and kind of ground myself more.
Mm.
For me, practicing that over the years has helped me kind of overcome anxiety. So I would never be able to speak like this. I would never be able to be social as much. So sorry.
Okay, take care of yourself. That's what we're here to do.
Yeah. So just being able to like be mindful of myself has allowed me to essentially be more calmer and allow me to kind of arrange my thoughts in a like a more mindful way. It's no longer like cluttered. I'm no longer like anxious all the time. So it's definitely helped me progress. And I see with a lot of my clients where um I guess I had a patient this week who the first time he saw me, you know, he's like, I've got this pain, I've got these migraines, I don't understand what's going on. And you know, we tried exercise, it didn't really help him, you know, he just found like he was getting stiffer. So we said, okay, let's try a mindful approach. So I did some kind of meditation, kind of like some muscle relaxing kind of exercises. And what he found is that I would essentially just get him to stand up and take a deep breath in, breathe out, just focus and center himself. And we did that for 5 minutes. And I said, what did you learn from that? And he found that he was like clenching his bottom. So he just stood up, he's naturally clenching his bottom. He didn't know why. And he
Mm.
said, you know, it doesn't make sense. Why am I clenching my bottom? Like, it makes no sense. And I was teaching him, like, I was telling him, like, you know, all these years, like, there's that tension that's built up, that stress. And this is how he's coped. He's kind of become more tense. With chronic pain, obviously, you're frustrated, you're in pain, and your body's reacting in a way to kind of prevent that pain. And often it's through tensing your body.
Mm.
So what I found is like through mindfulness, through his breathing exercises, he's been able to kind of calm himself down, be more cooler. And when you're in that kind of frame of mind where you're calmer, more relaxed, your thought process is much more positive. Like you can show much more self-compassion to yourself. You're no longer trying to rush with the time. You're no longer panicking about the future. You're kind of in that moment. And it's just so much more easier to show yourself self-care.
Mm.
And I think the difficult bit is when you finish that kind of your mindfulness session, say you practice for 10 minutes, you finish it and you're like, oh, you know what, next I need to do this, I need to do this. But if you do it properly, you know, it allows you to be grounded, and it makes you realize that there's no need to rush. Like throughout the more you try and rush and trying to like pack things together, the more likely, you know, things are going to fall apart, the more you're going to get stressed out, and it's a kind of cycle. Whereas if you can take your time and just not rush things through mindfulness, it allows you to get to your end destination much more easier and much more calmer, more relaxed, and just more efficiently.
Yeah, you talking just reminded me of a client I was working with recently, and she was a busy professional, had a team of people she was managing, rushing from meeting to meeting. Some were online, some were actually at the other end of the building, but they were back-to-back meetings, no time in between to even get from one to the other. And she
Yeah,
comes to the appointment and she's all like, yeah, okay, yeah, what are we doing? Yeah, all right. And then she's gone, just a minute, and she's jotting down something because she's forgotten it because that was from the meeting previous. I said, okay, let's just take a few breaths. You can do this, and just teaching her to take a few breaths, walking from one meeting to another, it's made a radical difference in her life. It's just like she doesn't feel that rushed. She's able to think what she's thinking in that moment rather than thinking it 5 minutes later.
exactly. Yeah,
She's being more mindful. She's in the actual moment she's in. So in the meeting she's in, she's there, like concentrating. And then later she can be in the next meeting without having all those racing thoughts from the previous or the next. So breathing, just being in the moment, that's so key, aren't they? Not just to self-care, but like as a whole being, like a way of
yeah,
life can be so much more refreshing, can't it?
100%.
Mm. So where would you say you take your I mean you've come a long way yourself, and you
Yes, yeah.
mentioned that a little while ago. Do you mind asking asking a bit more about that?
Yeah, in terms of my own journey, or
Yes, your
yeah,
own journey. Where how has that evolved, and how did
yeah.
you?
So I guess like when I was, I guess when I didn't kind of up until 21, I guess I was just trying to like live life. I was I was very introverted, quiet. Um, I didn't realize at that time, but there was a lot of anxiety, and a lot of times, I'd want to say stuff and do stuff, but I couldn't get it out of my mouth, and I don't understand why. At that time, I didn't really seek help. I didn't know about kind of anxiety or even help at that time. So I kind of graduated from biomedical science, trying to figure out what I wanted to do next. And on that journey, I guess I found like videos online about self-help, trying to educate myself around what that is, trying to build confidence. I think that the key theme was always trying to build confidence. I thought if I could build confidence, my life would be sorted. And during that time, I was also like really overweight, so I was trying to lose weight as well.
Mm.
So it was a combination of those two things. And I guess on that journey, I think I discovered Tony Robbins, who does like NLP initially. So I discovered him, and I think a lot of my friends thought, who's this guy? He's like a scam artist. But a lot of the stuff he was talking about, thoughts to beliefs, how they affect your behavior, your emotions. It kind of made sense, and like no one's ever explained it to me in that way. So for me, it just made complete sense. So I started that journey, and I started to kind of dive deeper into my beliefs, what I wanted. I started to discover like things I had never kind of explored. So, like, for example, why I was overweight. When I was younger, my father passed away when I was 2 months old.
Oh,
Um,
good.
and,
Yeah.
and although my mum, sorry, although my mum got remarried, I didn't realize that kind of 2 months to 4 years old impacted me so much. That lack of kind of a male father figure. So,
Mm.
sorry.
Take a drink. That's fine.
Sorry. So what I found is over the years, I developed certain habits and actions and behaviors that essentially where I was trying to people please, seek validation from other people. So as
Mm.
I started to kind of peel these layers away, I started to kind of discover myself more. I started to discover why I wanted in life, who I wanted to be, and it's still an ongoing process. I still have those behaviors, we all do, but compared to where I was before, so much more happier in myself. I'm so much more determined. I know what I want more, and I think this has basically led me into kind of coaching itself,
Mm.
because I initially started doing all this learning and courses because I was interested in it. I was trying to find myself in that sense, but over the years, I've started to realize that one of like my skills as such, or one of the things I'm good at, is building connection with people. And I noticed in physiotherapy as well, there's an element of rapport and trust that patients need. Um, and one of the reasons why I fell into physiotherapy because I lost weight, and I was like, oh, this is cool. Like, it's about fitness, it's about helping people, get stronger. There's an
Mm.
element of, helping people in their mind and their bodies. So I jumped into physiotherapy, and I started to realize a lot of what people need, and what I needed too, was that connection and trust. Because
Mhm.
once I could build that with people, they want that growth, they understand you, they listen to you more, and they're more what's the word, they are more inclined to kind of make that change, because they trust you more, and they see that you're there to help them in that sense. So
Mhm.
I guess for me, that's kind of been the journey where I've worked on myself. I've had to overcome like these self-limiting beliefs of like not good enough. um and it's not that I've overcome them fully, they're always going to be there, these beliefs, but I've got to a point where they don't affect me so much that they hold me back. I'm able
Mm.
to kind of move forward, be on social media, do all these things, and grow as an individual, whereas in the past I would have just not done anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and grow your business as well. Yeah,
Yes.
so
Yeah.
that comes, you need certain amount of confidence to start doing that, don't you? And to,
100%,
yeah,
yeah.
as you say, with social media and things, it's doing this sort of thing. Yeah, it's all like you need that confidence. So do you have like a definition of confidence, or something that like, because
Yeah.
you work a lot on other people's confidence as well, don't you?
Yeah.
So how would you describe confidence? Because
Yeah. So I guess it's like the common kind of idea that confidence is something, you become, you can do, you can trust, because you've done it a few times, so you trust yourself in that ability to do something. But I guess for me as well, there's an element of like being confident within yourself, that being able to kind of self-express yourself, um not being scared to share your opinion, and kind of being able to voice your opinion. This is something I'm learning more and more recently as well. Like, there's still elements where I don't voice my opinions as much, and as I start to do it, I start to realize, oh, like, I can do this. I'm no longer inhibited by other people's opinions as much. So all these little things for me is confidence, where it's essentially allowing you to be more authentic. So the person you are when no one's watching, the person you are when you're, the closest family member, that person you can kind of take out and show everyone. And if you look at like social media now, a lot of the people that are trending are authentic. Um, they are confident within themselves. And for some people, they've gone through so much trauma, so much like life experiences, it's all been shunted down. It's almost like it's been suppressed. So for me, it's almost like a beam of light. How can you get to that end stage? There's different ways you can do it. You don't have to do coaching. You can do like yourself CBT. You can do there's so many different ways that
exercise
work
as
for
well,
you.
I guess.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. People do it to exercise 100%. So it's just about finding your own routine, finding your own path. But it's almost like, how can you become more authentic in yourself? Because
Yeah,
once you do that, it's almost like life is just a little bit more easy. There's more purpose, there's more passion. That you can control life a little bit more than you are now.
yeah. And I think it is that sense of being in control that is that sense of confidence, isn't it? If you feel like you're in control of your life, yourself, you're empowered to do things that you wouldn't be able to otherwise. And
Exactly.
I often think that if you know your emotions, your body, your mind, if you
Yeah.
understand them more, that's where your control comes from, because then you know how you're going to react to a certain thing, and that you will cope in a certain situation. So
Yeah.
I think, yeah, you're right. There's this thing about getting the confidence from practice and doing it and knowing that you can cope. But
Yes, 100%.
it's actually, that knowing of yourself
I
in
think,
that process, isn't it? It's not just the doing it, it's
yeah,
trusting yourself to do it.
100%. And I think in like, because I work with men, there's also that stigma where like, people think you need to be loud, overconfident, you need to like shut people down, not show your emotion, and that shows confidence. But I feel like this is a way of like, it makes sense. You can do it that way. But when you're doing that, you're not really showing your true self. And
Mm.
I think this is often a stigma that I see with a lot of male who kind of, like men don't cry, all those stigmas. And it's almost like as you kind of peel away the layers of like how you think you should be, those perceptions, you start to see another self to you, and almost like you can be soft. There's people that are kind of soft, soft spoken, who cry, but they can also show like anger, they can also show rage, and those people are more authentic. They know who they are, they don't need to hide it. Whereas there's other people who are kind of, they need to shout, they need to show anger, rage, and they get their point across, but at what cost? You're not really, you're basically like your emotion is basically driving you as opposed to like yourself.
Yeah, and I guess it can go the other way as well, can't it? Because you could have the male arrogance or the aggression that comes forward, or you can have the people pleasing,
Yes.
like the sort of meek and sort of more just people pleasing all the time and trying to get sort of win favor with everybody by doing everything that you think they want you to do. And
100%.
so,
Yeah.
neither end of those scales is really going to find happiness or peace or relieve the chronic pain, because you're always going to be pressurized.
Yes. Yeah.
Living this life with a mask on or pretending.
Exactly, yeah. Especially with chronic pain, I think like one of the stigmas is like, people don't share their pain after a while, because it's almost like people are just like, how can you be in pain? Like, like how can you be in pain for this long? You're acting or you're pretending. And I think people don't understand their people's pain, and then people start to shut down their pain. But by doing so, you're almost like running away from it. You're kind of suppressing it and putting it away. Whereas part of chronic pain, you want to start to dive deeper into that pain and understand why you have it, the perception you have around it, and how it formed.
Yeah. And I mean, the work that I do with pain often involves the emotional work as well, because we might avoid the emotions as much as we avoid pain.
Yes, yeah.
And so, trying to work with, leaning into the pain, leaning into the emotions. And again, that's where mindfulness can come in, but, other techniques and that. So in physio and in, and in your coaching, how would you get someone to start leaning into their pain?
Yeah. I think there's a lot of different methods. I think ACT is like acceptance and commitment therapy, something that's becoming more common in physio, just because it's a tool that we can implement in our sessions. But essentially, there's different ways you can do it. I think for me personally, I think the first element is education around what pain is. So like similar to what I spoke about before, damage, pain being like a buffer, like a way for your body to kind of be on high alert so you don't cause damage, and kind of explaining that kind of education around pain. I think second to that is kind of reassuring patients and being like, your feelings are, understandable, but also kind of showing them direction to, there is a way out of this, that you can make improvements, but it means that you have to put effort in. And I think through that, you can kind of see where the patient is. Are they kind of hopeful? Like, do they think they can make a change? Or are they kind of hopeless, where they think, they're not going to make a change? And I think at that stage, it varies from patient to patient. So if you're hopeful, I would start implementing things that they can do on a day-to-day basis, keeping a pain diary. Whereas if you're hopeless, I would kind of say, okay, let's figure out what you want in life, looking at their values, looking at things they enjoy, and kind of creating a plan around that initially, and then pushing them into that pain.
Yeah. So, I know with ACT, a lot of that is values based, isn't it? And I bring in values quite a lot. I mean, I've done some ACT training, but I'm not ACT therapist. So
Yeah.
I do tend to use like values led sort of goal setting, and sort of making sure that we're on the right page, because so many people will set a goal that isn't aligned with their true self. Again, that authenticity.
Yes, yeah, 100%.
So finding out your values, working out where you want to be truly, is really an important first step, isn't it? Or one of the first steps.
I think once you know your values and once you know what's important to you, it's so much more easier, because all of a sudden you start to see it on a day-to-day basis. So like a lot of the clients in chronic pain, so when I work in the NHS, I do that like once a week, or 2 times a week, sorry. And a lot of the patients there, like they are like more on the kind of lower end of spectrum in terms of income. There's a lot going on, suicidal, depression. So it's a lot more harder to kind of reach like them in terms of being hopeful. So when we explore values, what I find is a lot of the times, one of the main values are like family. So once we look into that, it's almost like there's a change. It's like, okay, how would you like to, spend more time with your family? How would you like to do this? And then we bring up like past experiences. And through that, it's almost like you're already building motivation, because all of a sudden they're going to start picturing it in their head. They're going to start seeing it on a day-to-day basis, and in most cases, you know, they will want to make a change in that sense.
Yeah, yeah, it sounds like a sort of similar way, yeah, like range of clients that I might have seen over the years, and you know, sort of have some that really, you know, don't need to sort of even talk about values because they're living that value, or they're trying to work towards their values anyway, and then other people perhaps haven't even considered values, or doesn't you know, haven't really been told anything about values or come across it
100%.
before. So you know, trying to explain you know, how to find your values is really you know, important in them first few steps. So I guess, you know, what you're saying is, you know, checking what they would like to be doing if they weren't in pain or if they weren't feeling as they were, and you know, things from the past, you know, that they've done previously that brought joy or you know, added value in their life.
Exactly, yeah, precisely. And yeah, I guess it's difficult in those situations where you kind of are hopeless, like you feel hopeless. You've got so much going against you. But I guess what I found is with those patients, it's just about consistency. You know, they do show up. There's a part of them that does want change, and it's once you can drill that message in, you know, like you have to do something, or it's just going to get worse. And a lot of times, you know, they do start making small changes. A lot of the time, you know, they are kind of stuck in that system, that cycle of chronic pain, where they do nothing about it. But at this equally, there are patients out there, you know, who want to make that change. And once you show them, you know, it's possible, once you educate them, the change, you know, they go through that journey, and it's remarkable.
So I suppose, you know, it's knowing that there is a choice. You know,
Yes.
and we've said that already in the summit, you know, that there are always choices in life. There's always a choice of staying where you are, going backwards or going forwards. You know, we can always make a choice.
100%. And I think is that choice is based out of like love and fear. So I think some people are so fearful of hurting themselves again, going through that process of pain, where they don't see like the good stuff. And I think I don't know if it's everyone, like for me personally as well, like it's easier for me to see the worst case scenario than the best case scenario.
That's everyone.
Yeah.
That's a natural thing. We all have a
Yeah.
negative automatic bias.
Yes. Yeah.
It's, you know, we're born with it, and it's essential so that we don't go step out in front of a bus or eat fruit without thinking, you know, whether it's, you know, dangerous to eat it, or, you know, like pick a berry and just eat it without knowing what it is. You know, we need to know that there's potential danger, so we will look at the negative to survive. But we can overcome that. We can change that by doing a lot more positive and thinking more positive. So
Exactly. I think it's I guess it's finding that kind of positive end goal, that choice that, you know, you would love to do. And I think a lot of patients, you know, they'll be like, you know, I want to go to the beach, I want to like spend time at the beach, and that's, you know, already one thought. But what I do is kind of like, how can you retrain that on a daily basis? Like, how can you imagine yourself there? You know, it's like visualization.
yeah,
And it's difficult, you know, going from negative to positive is difficult. And sometimes you got to go more into negative, understanding where these emotions arose from, these thought processes, to get to the positive. But if you can find a positive, it's always good, because it's like the light at the end of the tunnel.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I can remember not so much with the pain, but you know, in depression years ago, having someone just say, you know, you will get better. I don't know when, but you will get better. And it was just like, oh, you know, I'm not going to be like this forever. Wow.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, and it was enough to then go, okay, what is that like then? Where am I heading? And so, you know, it's that hope, isn't it, as well, that building of hope from the
Exactly.
hopeless, adding that in. Yeah. So do you have self-care routines yourself? Do you know, do you
Yeah.
follow specific routines, or is it more like, you know what to do, so you'll just implement it as you need it?
I think this year has been more about structure for me. So I do try to implement something throughout the year. So um in the past, I've kind of experimented with mindfulness, journaling. I do like journaling a lot. So what I kind of do at the moment, what I'm doing is like 40 days of something, and I kind of time on my phone. So like I say 40 days, I'm going to do this. So the last 40 days, I did push-ups, 30 push-ups a day, 40
Wow.
days. And I just said, I'm going to do this. And it's quite interesting because you do it for 40 days, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, wow. Like, because I'm someone who wants like a quick kind of result. So it teaches you to be patient. And after the kind of first set, because I started the year just like meditating in the morning for 5 minutes. I did that for 40 days, and I went on to like journaling for like 10 minutes in the evening. about my day. And like just throughout the year, I've been implementing these little things, and all of a sudden you build a habit, right?
Yeah.
So at the moment, I'm doing before I go to bed, I do like 20 minutes of meditation, and I journal. And my meditation is around essentially being mindful, like being grounded in my body, and also visualizing my future, like where I want to be.
Mm.
And then I'm also journal and reflecting around how my day was and how aligned it was to my future. So in the future, for example, I would like to be doing more coaching, more physio work. So how aligned am I to that kind of private practice work that I want to be in the future? So I kind of look into where my thoughts were, where my kind of behaviors were, what could I have improved, those kind of things. That's kind of my journaling. And then in the morning, I do like to meditate for 5 minutes and also journal around like gratitude. So things I'm grateful for. And I find that just kind of keeps it grounded, but also allows me to stay grounded throughout the day on top of my vision, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, and I like that gratitude as well, because we had Sam talking on the first day, habits of happiness, and a lot of that is about gratitude. And like if we can tap into that, and especially first thing in the morning, as early as possible, it's going to set us up for the day. We're going to feel a lot more different than if we get up and have that. Well, just do other things, like eat breakfast and go to work.
Exactly, yeah.
Just
and I think
a few minutes, in a gratitude practice is, it's going to be.
100%, and it really like tunes you into like that frequency of like feeling more love and compassion for yourself as well. Just because I find a lot, like you said, it's hard to be positive, but if you can find things you're grateful for, and even if you can be grateful for like the moment, the things you have right now, it's difficult in a lot of circumstances, but if you can, it does change your behavior. It changes your mood, your emotions, your thought process 100%. I also just to add on, like self-care wise, throughout the week, I know there's certain things I have to do. Like exercise is one of them. So I do go gym 3 to 4 times a week, and then also dancing. So I really enjoy dancing, and I realize if I go a month without dancing, I do feel it. Like, I feel a bit like suppressed, if that makes sense. So I try and include that like at least once or twice a month, like going to a class, and sometimes swimming. So like water, I love. So swimming, I haven't done like kind of like since like probably May, but it's something I want to include as well. That's one of my goals. Like just to, like even if it's once or twice a month, at least include that, because I do find like those things adding things that I enjoy definitely changes my mood. Essentially you're playing, right? You're playing with your life, your time, everything.
Yeah. Again, one of the practices I teach people are work, rest, play. Can you remember the old Mars adverts?
Oh no.
Mars a day helps you work, rest, and play was their tagline.
Okay.
And I just, I have a planner that we use, and we plan out a week of, work, rest, and play, and getting a good balance. Because we'll work more than anything else if we don't watch it. So we, making sure that we, do the work, but keep that, in a certain structure, but then rest and play are so important. We don't take enough rest. We definitely don't do enough play.
We don't, 100%. I think especially this day and age where like it's all about grinding and hustling, or showing off on social media. I think people have forgotten a lot of people, not everyone, but a lot of people have forgotten to play.
Yeah, and when I do talk to people about play, they might say that they're playing against friends online on a game or something. And I say, do you really enjoy that? Yeah, it's all right. It doesn't sound like you enjoy it. It sounds like it's all right. There's a difference there, isn't there?
There is.
Really bringing a smile to your face and wanting to get back doing it again and again. Because your whole body comes alive. You're smiling. You're radiant. That's different to all right. So, I'm not saying that I'm anything against gaming online, especially with friends. It can be the thing that that can be revolutionary, can't it? Can be something that someone can engage in when they can't get out of the house and things. So it's not that I'm saying it's wrong or anything like that, but it is, if it's not bringing joy to your life, we can find other things that will do that, and that's part of self-care.
It is 100%. I think that's like the important thing, right? Because I think people think self-care, and like you go on social media and like people talk about journaling and meditation, ice baths, all these things. And I think the important thing is finding what you want as an individual. And yes, at the early stages you have to experiment, but once you find one or two things that you enjoy, just do it for like 2 months, and
Mm.
you'll see like the difference within yourself already. Like you will see a change, that you'll be more excited about certain things, be more relaxed. You have something that you're excited for in the week.
Yeah,
So
yeah. And I was just going to say, Rebecca was watching, and she said she remembers the Mars ad. Oh, she got excited and cut herself off.
oh.
I don't know. What do you mean offline? I don't quite understand that one, Rebecca. Just let us know. What does that mean? Excited, cut myself off. does it mean you cut yourself offline, or does that mean something
I'm
like
assuming, yeah, hopefully cut yourself online, yeah.
that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So, do you have any advice you would give to your younger self? Because you've come such a journey, haven't you?
Yeah.
It's sort of been a long way from that shy, slightly overweight young man that you were.
Yeah, yeah.
You're a lot more confident, running your business, working in the NHS. Oh, Rebecca's back online now.
Okay, that's it.
Great. Welcome back, Rebecca. Yeah, so what advice would you give to your younger self?
What advice would I give? I think the main thing, and I kind of promote it on like myself, like around my YouTube and everything as well, is like explore. I think I didn't explore life as much as I could have when I was younger. It's only kind of when I was 21 I started to read books, and I think my bubble popped. Like I left out, I was looking for a job, and I was like, oh, this is like the world now.
Mm,
And I think I would have explored more life a bit more, and just dive deeper into exploring different like activities, hobbies. 'Cause I think the more people explore, like say traveling, for example, exploring different sports, you start to learn things. And I think I was so kind of preoccupied trying to fit in, not really having anyone to guide me in that sense, that I kind of just followed the norms. So I played football, when I was mates, went clubbing, all of these things, which I enjoyed. I did have fun. But I think once I started to explore myself, like my mind, my thoughts, I started to explore dancing, all these other kind of different hobbies, gymnastics, and I started to explore different things. I started to learn more about myself. And I think if I could have gone back and did anything different, I would just start new things, explore different things more faster.
mm, yeah,
Yeah,
that's really,
I feel like I
really
control
important.
myself, but yeah, I think explore would have been probably one of the most important things. And then I think the other thing is also, sorry, is expressing myself more. I think it's probably something I'm still learning, but just being able to express my opinion more and learning to back myself more as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. It's hard, isn't it? When we're young, we don't always, especially if we've not had that guidance, or
yeah,
we've not had anyone, or the teaching to know who, to know that we can explore to find out who we are.
exactly. Yeah,
And I think it comes from, sometimes it's from someone like your own background, where you've perhaps not got the guidance, because your own father had died, and yes,
mm,
you've got a stepfather, but it's not quite the same perhaps. But
yeah,
then there's the other side where you perhaps have parents who are anxious and don't allow you to explore, and you're held back in that
yeah,
way, because they're worried that you're gonna come to no good, or get hurt in some way. So yeah, it can be from a number of different perspectives, can
yeah.
it?
I
You
think the
have to
more I've explored myself as well, I started to kind of realize that like a lot of the perceptions you have, maybe like you said, the way my mum was reacting was because she was anxious at the time. She lost someone as well, and she was coping. Her nervous system was coping in that way. My stepdad is amazing. I refer to him as dad, and like we have a loving relationship. But I think I probably didn't see it when I was younger because I was exploring different ways. I didn't really understand the dynamic. I didn't understand my own emotions. I think as I started to explore myself more, my emotions, and started to understand where everything originated from, it just made a lot more sense.
mm,
And I see like as I changed within me as well, I saw the external world change. And I think similar to chronic pain, it's like when you change your own perception of life, life does change for you. It's like magic in a way, but it's almost all of a sudden you're not reacting. You're starting to see the positives of everything in life.
yeah, yeah, and it becomes less of something you have to do with that consciousness, like make yourself do it. You do it automatically after a while, and it
Exactly.
becomes you, and it becomes the world. Yeah. And I guess it's the same, or the opposite of that negative bias that we were saying about. If you constantly recognizing the negative bias and living by the negative bias, you then don't see anything positive. You will see more negative, because we'll see what we perceive is there.
Exactly, 100%. Yeah.
So if we can turn it around, start seeing more positive and being more positive, the world will seem a lot more positive.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it, how we sort of come to similar sort of ways of thinking, even though we've had totally different paths, and the
Yes.
number of people on this summit so far that have had similar sort of outcomes, or sort of view of life now. Our paths have been so different.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny because I guess we all end up in the same kind of same place, like you said, and it's like, it's crazy. Like we've led different lives, but our perceptions are all equal as well now. Like, yeah.
I think it's really exciting that you can do that and then find those people in the world, because there are people out there that are that have come that same, not the same journey, but got to the same destination. Yeah. So is there any tips that you would want to share with the audience, people listening, that might might help them in their chronic pain right now, or their emotions, their anxiety, even anything that would be easy to
I would say probably the first thing, like probably the easiest thing you can do, is education. Like I guess we're both saying, you can overcome chronic pain, there's a way out there. And if you actively look out there and say, ways to overcome chronic pain, you will find a lot of information out there. There are specialized people, I guess, researching this. Like in the physio world, there's like Lauren Mosley, who's well known, Peter O'Sullivan, all these people who are kind of like well known to research around pain and understanding, there's a way forward. You can, live a more empowered life. So I think education and awareness is important first, and believing in it. And the more you kind of engross yourself in videos, books, all these things, there's so much out there, the more you'll start to believe in it. So it takes a little bit of effort, but I think that's the first step. If you have no hope at all, like, just start educating yourself, because there is a way forward. And I think the second thing, most likely for me, is finding something that you want in life, like defining where you want to be in like 10 years time. Like, if you didn't have chronic pain, what would you want to do? And like, be realistic as well. Like, if you've never run a marathon, don't say you want to run a marathon, but if it's something that's on top of your mind and something you want to do, maybe set that as a goal and see, okay, that's the end goal, how can you get there? And it'll be a long journey, it'll be overwhelming at first, but at least it sets something to aim for. Because I think if you don't have a target, you're basically just aiming for nothing, and then you're easily going to be pulled back by your kind of negative kind of beliefs, your thoughts, and pain as well. And then the third thing for me is practicing mindfulness. I think to see the effects of mindfulness takes time. It's something super difficult, but if you were to practice it on a daily basis and you reflect on it each week, and you did it for like 6 months, you'll see a difference, 100%. But it takes practice. There's different ways you can do it. You can do mindful walking, you can do visualizations online, but and you can experiment with different things. But if you practice it and just stick to it, you'll see it change. And I think it's much more better to try than to not to do anything, because if you don't do anything, your pain's not just going to get better. If anything, it will probably get worse. But if you were to start doing these three things, at least it takes you one step forward. And then once you start becoming more confident, you can starting to move more. You can start incorporating other exercises, movements throughout your day. You can seek more help. But until you kind of have hope, it's just going to be very difficult.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So do you have offers, do you have things that you promote to clients, and anything that you're giving away at the moment? You have available online?
So I guess at the moment I'm working privately in like London. So I'm working with a company called London Back Pain Clinic. So if you want to work with me just physio wise, you can contact me and we can book a session. It'll be central London location. But if you want to work with me coaching wise for like pain coaching and physio coupled, where we kind of go through the physio side and the pain coaching, you can find me online. I do have the packages are more kind of monthly, so they'll be like 4 months, 6 months, and then 12 months. And the reason for this is because realistically, I can't unless you've done work already. It's hard for me to get you a change in like a month or two. And it's about consistency. So those are my packages. But if you want to experiment and kind of see what I'm about and talk to me and see, maybe I'm not the right person for you. Maybe there's other people who are better than me for you. And in that case, if you want to kind of talk to me, you can book a free session on my website. So it's www.jagunath, so JAGUNATH coaching.co.uk. And you can just there's email on there. Just email me. We can book in like an hour. Just talk about if I'm the right person for you, and if you want to work with me. And you can also see what my coaching is about. And if so, you can jump on and we can work together. That's for physio coaching, and then for men's coaching, I do like again 3 month, 6 month packages. And again, if you want to work with me, just contact me via the website. I also post on YouTube, so it's just my name, Jagunath Sva. And I also post on Instagram. So if you want like to follow my content, if you have any questions, you can always ask me, and I can make a video about it if it helps.
Brilliant.
And my Instagram is also my name, and also the other Instagram for physio is the Conscious Physio.
Conscious Physio, yeah. That was the one that I first found you by, and I was like, Conscious Physio. Wow, I know a lot of physios, but a conscious one.
Yeah.
So unconscious are not good.
Yeah.
So do you want to, we're friends on Facebook now. So
Yes,
do you want to pop into the group and pop all your links below the video when it's up? Yeah, because it's going to be up in the next, I'll pop it on straight away.
Yeah.
And then, we can make sure everybody knows how to find you. And if there are any questions afterwards, Jag will be able to answer them, or I can pass them on to him.
Exactly. If you have any physio related questions that you want help with and you want me to answer, I'm happy to just pop the questions, and I'm happy to make a quick video and pop it in the group as well if it's easier for you guys to access.
That's it. If anybody does think of anything that might be sort of more, I was going to say more structural based, but it's it could be anything body based, isn't it? It's not
exactly
it's chronic pain. It's anything that you think that Jag might be able to help with, ask away, and we can make sure that we get the answers as best we can to you. But thank you. Yeah, it's just getting some thank yous. So thank you so much for joining me, Jag. It's been brilliant as ever. Yeah, I do like talking to you because I think we are on the same page on a lot of things.
Yes, yeah. So
we're going to say good night. Tomorrow at 11:30, I think it is. I'm going to check my sheet now. Do I have my sheet available? Oh, I've lost my sheet. I think it's 11:30 we're kicking off tomorrow. Is it you, Rebecca? Tomorrow morning at 11:30? Or have I got that wrong? She's watching. She answers. I can't see it down here.
You can post it on the group after.
Sorry?
You can post it on the group after.
Yes, Yes, it is Rebecca at 11:30 in the morning tomorrow. We're starting with, and then now I can't remember who else is on tomorrow. It's only been 2 days, but I am already thinking.
I mean, it's late now. It's 9 p.m, right?
They've been long days.
Yeah.
But I shall hang in there until Friday.
Practice some self-care.
Yeah, I'm now going to. I'm going to go get hot chocolate, I think. I'm going to
amazing,
have a bath and early to bed. And you go look after yourself as well. Thank you.
I actually get some hot chocolate too. I might have some marshmallows.
It's that time of year.
It is, yeah. It's actually really cold outside, like compared to how it was last week. So
yeah, that's it. So go take care of yourself. Get rid of that cold.
Yes.
And thank you for joining us. I'm going to say goodbye to everybody. So good night.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget to comment, like and share if you've enjoyed the video.